I try not to jump on topics that don't have any validity to them, at least not for news videos. Twitter salt videos, I don't give a hoot, I'll talk about whatever, but when it's just me talking to you, the viewer, I try not to be too extravagant with my topics. But when I say XDefiant was the biggest fumble in gaming history, I am being 100% sincere, and that's why when I saw this report the other day about Ubisoft considering shutting the whole thing down after Season 4, there were many things I wanted to say in response. I could talk for an hour about things in this game that I would have done differently to keep people coming back to it. I could talk for an hour about how Ubisoft is in no position to be shutting games down because they're one of the most money-desperate companies in the industry right now. But at the end of the day, whether this rumor of a post-Season 4 shutdown is true or not, it cannot be denied that XDefiant is potentially the biggest fumble in gaming history. Not because it didn't make money, because obviously it did, not because it doesn't have a community, because obviously it does, but I say it is the biggest fumble because regardless of whether or not this report is true, the fact we're even talking about this is such a massive problem that never had to happen, and frankly never should have even come close to happening. So in case you missed it, a leaker with a very solid track record named Sean Weber posted on Twitter that Ubisoft is considering shutting down XDefiant after Season 4, and these rumors were quickly addressed by XDefiant's producer Mark Rubin, who addressed them by not actually denying them, if you look at exactly what he said. In response to the reports that Season 4 may be the last season of XDefiant, Mark Rubin stated that the team is currently working on Season 3 and 4 content, which doesn't actually refute anything that was said. Rubin also said that player numbers are down because they're not marketing the game, but that they're going to market the game once they think the game is in a better place. But like, if the game wasn't in a good enough place to be marketed, why did you launch it? Like, I don't know. This response from Mark Rubin really just sounds like he's covering for Ubisoft, but, you know, maybe I'm being too critical, but like reading Mark Rubin's response to the leaks, it really doesn't give me any confidence that the leaks are fake. But it's like I said before, whether or not the shutdown rumors are true, whether or not the leaks are legitimate, all of that is irrelevant to the fact that XDefiant is the biggest fumble in gaming history. The fumble has already happened, and frankly, I don't think recovery is possible at this point. XDefiant launched at a time when confidence in 6v6 Call of Duty was at an all-time low. It launched at a time when casual respawn-based team shooters are so unbelievably rare for some reason, and it launched at a time when people were begging for some sort of return to form from Ubisoft. So all of those circumstances mixed together, and then along comes a game that scratches the same itch as old school Call of Duty, it scratches the same itch as 360 era casual respawn based team shooters, and it is oozing, literally oozing with love for Ubisoft's old properties. In my first XDefiant video, I referred to this game as Ubisoft Smash Bros. In the body of Black Ops 4, and the fact that this game had so many stumbles right out of the gate is absolutely absurd, because a game with that premise should have done absolute gangbusters, and yet here we are talking about a potential shutdown after Season 4. And again, even if the game isn't shut down after Season 4, even if those rumors are completely unfounded, I don't want to hear anyone in the comments talking about how I'm exaggerating about the game being a fumble, because there is zero reason for the game to be performing this poorly right now. Especially not with the runway as clear as it was during the launch window. Reminder that at the time that this game came out, Call of Duty was a complete mess with basically no viable 6v6 options for a casual audience, and yet Ubisoft shat their pants for months on end, and now Black Ops 6 has stolen the spotlight and is not going to give it back. XDefiant could have been one of the biggest FPS games in the world. It wasn't going to kill Call of Duty, it was never going to kill Call of Duty, but it absolutely could have been healthy competition for Call of Duty, the way that Battlefield and Medal of Honor used to be healthy competition. The casual respawn shooter market has dried up so much that not only does COD basically have no real competition at this point, but COD has also gotten so complacent that the audience is completely stealable. Or at least it was completely completely stealable until Treyarch showed that they actually have a competent game in the works. Like, I don't personally care about Black Ops 6. I played the beta, I didn't really care for it. But I know enough to tell you that the COD kids are going to be all over Black Ops 6, way more than they were on the last 4 Call of Duty games. So way to completely blow your lead here, Ubisoft. Like, even if XDefiant does get fixed up at this point, it's not going to matter because you blew it beyond repair. Call of Duty, for all intents and purposes, is back in like 2 weeks. No amount of fixes or media blitzing can save XDefiant at this point. The opportunity is gone. You drove away your core audience and you lost your chance to steal someone else's audience. It literally doesn't matter what you do at this point. At the time that this game came out, people were begging for a good casual respawn shooter, especially on PC, to the point that interest in fan-made Call of Duty mods like Plutonium and H2M, interest in stuff like that was at an all-time high, and instead of offering an official AAA frequently updated alternative to those fan-made projects, Ubisoft proceeded to distribute the PC version of XDefiant in the most boneheaded way possible. XDefiant at launch was not available on any PC launcher other than Uplay, or whatever the fuck Ubisoft calls their launcher now. I don't care enough to check. It's still not on Steam. It took like 2 months for it to be on the Epic Games Store, not that anyone actually uses that thing, and the EGS version, to my understanding, basically just routes you over to the Uplay version anyways. Reminder that in 2019, Ubisoft said the PC was their most profitable platform, but don't worry guys, no need to release the free-to-play live service game on as many PC storefronts as possible. Ubisoft's stock price has taken a historic nosedive over the last 5 years. They've released several high-profile, big-budget financial failures over the last 5 years, and they are in desperate need of a game that can make them a lot of profit for as long as possible. But hey, don't worry, definitely don't make XDefiant as easy to engage with as humanly possible. This game launched with virtually no competition, but also let's be sure to make it as obnoxious to obtain as we possibly can. And before I see anyone try to tell me in the comments that the game isn't flopping or that I'm overblowing the lack of success of XDefiant at this point, I want to show you the state of affairs on consoles. According to the official Xbox store page, XDefiant is not in the 50 most played. It's getting beaten out by a 9-year-old Black Ops game. It's getting beaten out by the fucking finals. It's being beaten out by DayZ. I forgot DayZ even existed on the Xbox. And on the PlayStation, it's no better. According to PS Time Tracker, XDefiant isn't even in the top 100 most played on PSN. But you know what is in the top 100 most played on PSN? Fucking Doki Doki Literature Club. Ubisoft should be embarrassed. This was 1000% avoidable on both console and PC. The runway was entirely clear. The demand for a game like this was so loud. All you had to do was listen for 5 seconds and you weren't capable of that. I hate this thing that big publishers do where they see an opportunity to release a product with minimal competition, and then instead of capitalizing on that minimal competition by making it as easy as possible to support the product that they're making, they try to use the lack of competition as a vacuum into a different product that has nothing to do with the product that has no competition, and then they act confused when the initial product underperforms. Ubisoft wanted XDefiant to be a vessel to Uplay on PC because they figured that all the PC players would just go to Uplay to play XDefiant, which confuses me to no end because they know that Steam is still their biggest buying base. They're retroactively putting their games on Steam. They have been for years. Rainbow Six Siege is on Steam. For Honor is on Steam. Truly, why was this Ubisoft live service game not put on Steam? Oh, that's right, because they wanted to use XDefiant to funnel people over to Uplay and capitalize on the lack of a solid 6v6 Call of Duty alternative, except you didn't account for the fact that Activision themselves already tried this and it didn't work. Remember when Activision moved Call of Duty PC ports over to Battle.net and yoinked them off Steam, and it was such a bad move that they had to retroactively put them back on Steam like a year ago, all except for Black Ops 4 for some reason? Black Ops 4 is now the only Call of Duty game not on Steam? Put Black Ops 4 on Steam, you fucking cowards. Oh, that's right, you won't? Because you know that if you put Blackout on Steam, then you'll erase any need for Warzone to exist on PC, but that's a different topic for a different video. My point is that there is so much money to be made off XDefiant on the PC alone that Ubisoft is not capitalizing on, because it was never about the overall success to them. It was about trying to hoist up their own launcher and their own storefront and their own subscription service and getting Ubisoft branded stuff on as many people's computers as humanly possible, but that didn't work before, and it's not going to work now. So here we are with XDefiant grossly underperforming and Ubisoft still not correcting course, because I honestly don't believe they want to. If they did want to, they'd put XDefiant on Steam tomorrow. They're launching Assassin's Creed Shadows on Steam now. They're porting all their recent games to Steam now. They obviously recognize that their PC strategy sucks ass, but for some reason, XDefiant is still locked behind the Uplay firewall, and for what? Who is calling the shots with this game? A report came out not too long ago that Ubisoft is so backwards with their development strategies that the XDefiant team has a not insignificant number of people working on it that have never worked on an FPS game before, as well as some people working on this game that don't even play FPS games. And that's the reason why XDefiant launched with several issues that would have never been there in the first place, like hit reg issues, and rubber banding, and packet loss, things that are extremely obvious to PvP FPS players, but to a non-FPS player, they wouldn't even be thinking about stuff like this. And frankly, it's not even those developers' fault. It's not like they assigned themselves to the project, you know? And I'm focusing so much on the PC version of this game because I'm a PC player. It's my platform. I'm very familiar with the PC-specific problems with XDefiant because they're entirely obvious to me. But just imagine how bad things have to be for this game to be on console, because this game is flopping arguably even harder on console. There's less competition on console. There is zero reason this game should be performing as poorly as it is on console. Again, this game can't even crack the top 100 on PSN. How is that even possible? Oh, I'll tell you how it's possible, because while most of the issues with XDefiant I've been talking about in this video are related to the PC distribution strategy, but when we crack open the shell and look at the game itself, it's a fucking mess. Why did it take so long to address packet burst and basic FPS mechanical issues? Why is the content drought so bad? Why were camo challenges and weapon XP rates adjusted like 78 times, but things like spawns and gun balance are apparently the lowest priority? Why was there such a shortage of game modes at launch? This idea of drip feeding content doesn't work with a game like XDefiant because XDefiant only exists as a response to Call of Duty's shortcomings. You can't counter Call of Duty's shortcomings by doing the things that make Call of Duty's shortcomings. XDefiant had such an explosive start, and then Ubisoft just did absolutely nothing to keep the explosion going. And then when numbers started to drop, Ubisoft proceeded to do absolutely nothing to stop the bleeding. And I can't wrap my head around why or even how. How do you fuck this up so badly? How do you drop the ball this hard? With a company as large as Ubisoft, with so much money on the line from investors, how is it physically possible to be this careless with a high-profile project? It genuinely makes no sense to me. XDefiant was the biggest fumble in gaming history. You had a free-to-play alternative to Call of Duty that could have just sat there with some new maps and some new guns popping in every month or two and a rotating cosmetic store, and you would have made gangbusters year over year. I swear, if Ubisoft just came out swinging, they fixed up the initial issues quickly, and then they put the game on Steam, and then they treated the post-launch support the way that fucking Blizzard treats Overwatch, this would have been a top 20 game on every platform for literal years. Blizzard's handling of Overwatch is shit for a game like Overwatch, but for a game like XDefiant, it's literally all they had to do. But you can't do that until you had a solid foundation, and Ubisoft seemingly refused to make their foundation solid. And as much as I love seeing a company as arrogant and as obnoxious as Ubisoft step in their own shit, it's such a pity that a game with such a solid foundation had to be sacrificed in order to get here. It's the biggest flop in gaming history, and Ubisoft 100% deserved it. Toodles.